That's what I told you. Touch nothing but you're a bunch of cowboys. I'm Liam, he's Rob, and welcome to the Hey Guys podcast and the first part of our End of the World season of podcasts. This week, we are looking back at one of the quintessential disaster movies of what could be considered the quintessential decade for the genre. 90s Hollywood delivered an array of elaborate ways to potentially end the world, but few were as large-scale, as wonderfully cast, and stupendously dumb as Michael Bay's asteroid epic Armageddon. You want common sense? A modicum of realism, or anything less than a ludicrous number of on-screen American flags? Well, you can go and watch Deep Impact, I guess. This is a movie that turns the dial up to 11 while the opening credits are still rolling and never lets up for its long, very long runtime. Does it hold up, though? Before we answer that question, Rob, I have to ask, do you have like a big connection to this movie? Like, it's never a movie I was in love with when I was younger. I always preferred Independence Day in terms of like the big 90s kind of catastrophe movies. But I remember this being such a big deal when this came out when I was 16 years old. It felt massive, this movie.
I remember it being a big deal. I mean, you got like, well, Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck's up and coming, like all these names and stuff, and people loving them. I never watched this. It was never one that I wanted to, but I remember the spa down by me used to rent VHSs, and I remember the guy in the queue was bringing it back from renting it, and I was too young apparently to rent it, so I had to send my friend home to get my brother, so my brother could come home and rent it. I can't remember why.
Yeah, it's
I was
weird,
too young. I don't think it was
how old were you
ages
when it came out. 15?
Yeah, I don't think it was ages. It was just like Spa's thing. You couldn't be under a certain age to rent.
It's probably you had to be an adult to rent a video.
Yeah. But to be fair, mate, as I've already said, and it's nothing to do against Bruce Willis, not Bruce Willis, Will Smith. But I didn't like Independence Day. I'm not a huge fan of these type of films. I don't like a disaster film. They're just they're boring to me, and people always make.
I'm so glad we're doing a season of them.
Yeah. People always make like the wrong decisions, and it just I don't know. It just
no.
Yeah,
this is
common sense. The biggest common sense thing in this. And before I actually say the common sense one, I actually got my note wrote down. Liam will do Lev, but I got the quote wrong. I honestly thought you would go the one I always do. This is how we fix things in Russia.
Oh yeah, well it could have been anyone.
Yeah,
could have been anyone.
I knew you'd do Lev. Oh my god. Common sense. The biggest common sense in the world. Apparently, it's easier to train an oil driller to become an astronaut than it is to train an astronaut to drill oil.
Well, that's one of the things brought up in this film's now infamous director commentary by Affleck. If you haven't heard Ben Affleck's not director commentary, it is director commentary, but Ben Affleck's doing it. Yeah. DVD commentary, thank you very much. It is unbelievable. He tears this movie to shreds. So one of the first things he mentions is like 8 months of training to drill, but nah, we'll give these guys a week of as being astronauts instead. It's like this whole like, it's so in the corner of, salt of the earth, working class guys. It's like, well, these nerds can't do this. It's like, wait, you've given them, they've already had, it's not even like for like. It's not like, oh, we've got to give these guys either 7 days of drill training or give these idiots 7 days of astronauts training. The astronauts who were trained to go to space ready have been working as drillers for 8 months, but Bruce Willis comes in and says that's not good enough. These guys don't know jack about drilling. They build rocket ships, but they don't know how to work his drill. Give me a fucking break. And Ben Affleck goes to town on this film in the best possible way. But that's the kind of brilliance of this film. It is dumb as shit. The most notable quote in the movie, the only person who seems to know what's going on is Keith David, General Kimsey, who says, and I quote, "We spend $250 billion a year on defense, and here we are. The fate of the planet is in the hands of a bunch of retards I wouldn't trust with a potato gun." And he's kind of right. Nobody in NASA's like, listen, I think he might be onto something. We should probably just send the astronauts and hope that they can drill, because this plan is insane. The fact that they sent Bear and, is it Max, the other one?
You mean the guy who is just walking arteries? He's getting tattooed in his mum's, I guess, tattoo and donut shop, and she's bringing donuts. But it was so nonchalant as well. Like, he's home for I don't know, his shift ended in the oil drilling place. So he's just getting a new tattoo that says mum on it. That's fine. And she's like nonchalant. You got a problem with the law again? No, why? Well, because there's coppers just waiting outside for you. There's no urgency in her voice or anything. The only one who really distrusts the police is Bear. Is it Bear? Michael Clark Duncan,
Michael Clark Duncan, yeah.
where he's like fucking leading them on a cross country chase.
Well, that's the thing with that whole sequence, the kind of gearing up sequence, we'll call it, where they go like, oh, we've got to go get the guys to come to NASA. None of them are just fucking cutting about, having a cup of tea, watching TV. Everyone's doing something absolutely, although I will give you the benefit. The idea is that they've come off the rig just a few days ago, and now they're kind of free to set upon the world. And from my experience, I knew a dude who went and did what was it? It was like he worked in a mine in the middle of Australia. So, you know, and when we're talking about the middle of Australia, I mean the middle of Australia. Yeah. So he's next to nothing. And it was he might as well be, he was just working on an inland rig, essentially. He might as well be at sea.
FIFO workers, fly in, fly out.
Yeah. So he would go there. He would work for like a month. He would have loads of money, and most of these guys are young as well. It's not like in this movie. And then all of a sudden, like you said, they fly out to Sydney. They've got fucking more money than they've ever had in their life, and they've seen nothing but dudes and fucking oil or mines for the past month. So they are just out, absolutely caning ass. It's the same reason that I live up in Scotland. Aberdeen is full of brothels. Yeah. It's because of all the guys who work on oil rigs. They all come back and they all just want to fuck. So it's just like, yeah, here you go, strip clubs and brothels.
I call, but no wonder you keep asking me to come visit. I don't think my wife would like that. But you keep asking me to come.
I live in Edinburgh, and much more respectful. Oh, you're fine. Much more respectful.
I call bullshit on you saying they've been gone for a couple of days, right? The timeline doesn't work. Okay, they go and get Harry Stamper, and he takes his daughter with him. They then tell him what's going on. He then says, "Right, this drill's fucked. You need me. I need my crew." So this is what, maybe a day, 48 hours at a push, right? They've decided who they need, and then they've gone, well, we need AJ. Yeah, you fired AJ. Well, yeah, but you fired AJ 48 hours ago. There's no way AJ's not going to be available. No, wait. AJ has his own drilling rig with his name. Is his name stamped on the fucking front of it? AJ's Drilling or whatever it was called. So it takes months to do. Not 2 days.
Like Ben Affleck said in the DVD commentary, this is a bit of a logic stretch. Liam, what part of the movie are you talking about? I'm talking about the whole fucking movie. Like, as always, Rob has got incredibly niche. There are so many things you could pick apart in this movie.
Give me time. Give me time.
But even supposedly Billy Bob Thornton was overheard on set speaking to Michael Bay, and he was just like, I just like to be in, the kind of movies that make sense, you know what I mean? But fuck it, we don't have to do that. It's just like, he's found out like during filming, it's just like, none of this makes sense. Fuck it, we're just going to roll with it. And Billy Bob, by the way, I just love the fact that he's been 55 for like the past 35 years.
Yeah.
Because everybody's been rewatching clips of Tombstone recently because Val Kilmer sadly passed away. And there's a famous sequence, oddly enough, one without Val Kilmer, where Billy Bob Thornton gets referred to by Kurt Russell. Yeah, but he gets referred to as a young'un, and he grabs him by his ear. And you're like, he might have been 25 when he was filming that. He still looks 57 years old. He's just
every time we talk about Billy Bob, I still bring up the fact he was in that Steven Seagal on Deadly Ground film with Michael Caine as the villain. Where he's playing a mercenary. Is the guy who leads him is, I think it's Ali Ernie. And there's a scene in the oil rig where Billy Bob is one of the mercenaries. He's talking to his friend. He goes, what should I do? Stock in or stock out? I mean, when I got the stock in, it makes me feel like a stock on a gun, by the way. When I got the stock in, it makes me feel like a badass. But when I got the stock out, it helps me shoot, but I feel like a bit like a pussy. And then 30 seconds later, he's dead anyway. So it's just funny.
He's had a peculiar career, but one way he was briefly A-list, and this was around that time. This was just before Angelina Jolie and all that jazz, I guess. But that's one of the things, for all the stupidity of this film, this really is an astronomically dumb movie, elevated massively by an absolutely ginormous budget, and make no mistake, we've already referred to it briefly, an amazing cast. Like, this feels like the kind of cast which shows up in a Wes Anderson movie. It was what they did in the night. Like, we'll blame Jerry Bruckheimer for this, because he did a similar thing with Con Air. Like, if you said this cast, so where have we got it here? So it's Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck, Liv Tyler, Billy Bob Thornton, Steve Buscemi, Owen Wilson, Michael Clark Duncan, Peter Stormare, William Fichtner, Will Patton, Keith David, Jason Isaacs, and Udo Kier. That's just naming some of them. You're like, that cast is fucking amazing. And this is coming the same year we did The Big Lebowski last week and said that was one of the best casts in the 90s. apparently there was a lot of competition, including this year. I mean, there's a bit of crossover even with Steve Buscemi and Peter Stormare. Were both in Big Lebowski as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those movies. You're just like you've got so much talent on screen, and they do elevate the material, but it almost feels like a bit of a waste to have that much talent working on material which is this inherently, let's be clear, like Keith David, like it's Keith David said, it is retarded. It's totally retarded.
Question for you, right? Biggest villain of the film. Who's the biggest villain in this film?
Oh, April O'Neil. April O'Neil.
April O'Neil? What film
April
are you watching?
O'Neil plays Will Patton's wife in this.
Thank you. That's April O'Neil, is it?
Yeah, Judith Hogue.
Sure? Which that is Judith Hogue. Yeah, yep. That's no salesman. That's your daddy.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't like that when he showed up initially. It was like, that's just a salesman. As soon as she could smell that astronaut money, she shows up on, like, when the fucking plane lands. Very presumptuous.
I love the fact you were in my mind, dude. Absolutely biggest villain of this fucking film.
Bigger villain than the fucking asteroid man.
I did not get that was Judith Hogue, though.
I never noticed it before this viewing. I even said to my wife, I was like, Jesus Christ, that April O'Neil. And she just looked at me and goes, what the fuck are you talking about? I was like, don't worry about it. I'll look at it now. And yes, it was. But she is such a gold digging hoe. Like she turn to Will Patton, showing up hat in hand in that Will Patton-y kind of way where, oh shucks, I wouldn't say boo to a goose, and she's just like, fucking sling your hook, sunshine. As soon as she sees him on TV, she's like, oh, wait a minute. No. That's definitely your dad. 100% that's your dad. Don't worry about a paternity test. That's the fucking guy. Unbelievable. And
get some money now.
Is the asteroid.
It's funny as well because you mentioned Udo Kier, who just played the psychologist, the one who Rockhound just tells about all these prizes he won as a kid, and the fact he tells him he's a genius. But then you get like Eddie Griffin is in this as a weird bike messenger.
Yeah, just gets
with his dog in it. Is it this one where he's got his dog?
Yeah, he's got his dog. Yeah. It's bizarre. That opening sequence, I remember that being a really big deal when this movie came out because, like, the poster had Grand Central Station and the smaller asteroids going into it, and like I was worried that this was going to look rough because I haven't seen this for a long time, and the effects, for the most part, have held up amazingly well. The only thing that truly ages this is the color palette. So when they're on Earth, it looks like REM's Losing My Religion. Everything has that brownish hue. And the moment they go to space, it suddenly looks like Bon Jovi's It's My Life. Everything has that kind of greeny, bluish hue on it.
I was going to go, it looked like the hellscape, like the Easter Bunny hellscape from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
It's totally got a touch of that as well. But they had those very 90s kind of color palette cinematography. But the effects have aged amazingly well. There's only like 2 bits in the whole film which kind of don't really hold up. One of them is the culturally inappropriate and quite clumsy attack. Well, it's not attack. When Shanghai gets hit, it's just so out of turn. It goes to show how far Shanghai has come in like the last 30 years in terms of kind of, global recognition and all that jazz. It looks like, an asteroid's hitting this old fishing village. It's like, no, that's hitting Shanghai. And that bit looks a little bit dodgy. And there's one sequence in space with the ships, which looks a little bit of its time. But for the most part, it looks great. And one of the reasons it looks great, love him or hate him, Michael Bay can shoot the shit out of action sequences, man. Like, he goes over the top with editing. Sure, you have to do, he can't just sit still. So if anyone's talking, he has that, classic Bay, the camera zooming around him. It's like Liv Tyler for the second half of this film. Her script literally just said, just look concerned for the next hour. That's all she had to do for the second half of the film. Yeah. But don't worry, we're going to spin the camera around you. So when you're looking concerned, it looks epic as fuck.
Oh, you spot.
It looks great when he does action.
Sorry, you spot on. He can do action very well.
100%.
The problem is that's all he can do.
Like, you don't ask him to do emotion. Get the second unit director in to do emotions, guys.
Not so much emotion, but don't ask him to fucking write the film or create characters or anything like that. Oh, he's fucking awful, mate.
But I tell you what, though, if you take the Transformers movies as an example, I actually really like the first one. but they get stupider and stupider as he gets more money and more freedom, and the writing gets worse, the scale gets more and more ludicrous. So of course they go back and they make them much more like intimate. And like, let's be clear, Bumblebee's a better movie.
Yeah.
But when you watch it, and the same with Beast Wars, they're technically better movies. But then you watch the action sequences, and it's just like they don't have any zip. There's nothing memorable about them. I think back to that first Transformers movie, the one where he was working on a bit of a budget, which I think is what he actually needs. And you have that sequence on the freeway where Optimus Prime I can't remember the Decepticon he's fighting, but you go back and watch that. That film's 2007. It looks fucking money. The whole sequence is, it's over-edited slightly, but it looks amazing. If you go and watch Bad Boys 2, the chase on the highway, unbelievable. You see lesser directors doing action sequences, and you're just like, it just doesn't have the same pop. I totally agree with you. The rest of the film, yeah.
I mean, you can see and I agree with you again, less budget makes for a better Michael Bay. We've already said it. The Rock is fantastic. We love The Rock, the Sean Connery, Nicolas Cage. You looked at
another Jerry Bruckheimer film. Yeah.
Okay. So The Rock is a great film. Then he gets Armageddon, bit of a budget, and he can do action scenes. But for some reason, like you said, he's just dipped the camera in different shades of orange or blue. It's fucking weird. Then they give him Pearl Harbor. And
which he's on I just want to say in defense of Pearl Harbor is a bad film, yeah?
Yeah.
The attack on Pearl Harbor is exactly what we were talking about just then. It is, I think it's like 12 minutes long. It's a fucking masterpiece. It is a masterpiece of action direction. The rest of the film, overwrought, pony, like, again, the whole issue, as soon as he's doing fucking emotions, you end up with Ben Affleck doing his animal cracker thing, and you're like, oh my God, this is cringe as fuck. But when he's doing the attack on Pearl Harbor, you're like, God, just go, if you can, just go back and watch that on the biggest screen you can.
Yeah, but going back to Pearl Harbor, the problem with Armageddon and Pearl Harbor, America saves the world. Like the only people that can. I get it with Pearl Harbor. It was. I mean, I'm not trying to take it away from it. Pearl Harbor. It was an attack on America. They had to. But like Armageddon, the only people who could do this, and one Russian. Sorry, I can't forget the one.
And that
Russian.
was almost by like happenstance. Like he wasn't supposed to be on the trip. This film leans heavily in the way 90s films could into cliche. We already mentioned the cliche of Shanghai. Then you get Pierre Sommer as the cosmonaut Lev, who's just so cliche ridden. Like any country they cut to, it's just absolutely ludicrous. But that's what this film was, and it was like the end of the kind of truly American jingoistic. This is all just before Team America was released, and everyone had to become a bit more self-aware. And I was actually thinking about this because, American politics with Trump being in charge, or American First, is becoming much more jingoistic again. It's like, will that lead to more movies of that ilk? The problem is, these movies need to work globally. And to most of the world at the moment, America kind of feels like the bad guy. So it doesn't really work anymore. Whereas in the 90s, they could still kind of get away with it, but maybe not today. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if we get more movies like this again. And to be honest, we could maybe do with a few of them, because
I'm all right. I'm fine, thanks. I'm good. I don't need any more disaster films. There's something about them. They're just ick. I'm just not a fan of them.
No, I mean, it doesn't have to be a disaster movie necessarily. If we're thinking about the movies that came out around this time, we mentioned earlier, with Con Air the year before, I'm just talking about like getting a bunch of massive stars, putting them in a vehicle for massive stars, and just off to the fucking races. Just something different to, let's be honest, we're both comic book movie fans to one extent or another, but fucking we could tone that right down. The only problem, and we'll find out if we're going to get another decade of these based on the success of Fantastic Four, X-Men, Superman, I suppose. But, and what's the other one coming out next year? Secret Wars? Is that the one coming out?
Oh yeah, no, it's Doomsday next, isn't it?
Avengers Doomsday and then
Secret Wars. Yeah, something like that.
So these aren't going away. So I just want big movies with massive casts. But maybe it's just something for the 90s.
I've never been like, get every actor you can, get him in, and like one actor who leads it, and then a bunch of guys getting their shot. I'm good with those kind of low budget kind of films, but. Don't get me wrong. I it's really hard with this one because it's all flash and what feels like no substance. They're just guessing to get you to the next step. Like, where do we need? Well, we need to get these blue collar workers in space. Okay, well, how will we do that? Well, we need to destroy the astronaut. What the fuck's it called? Asteroid. Yeah. So just some big astronaut from space we need to destroy. We need to destroy the asteroid. I was going to say it again then. But the best thing to do is to drill. Okay, that's fine. Jason Isaacs has told us that we need to drill inside it. So we'll get these blue collar guys into space. We don't really care. Like take logic out of it. That's fine. And it's going to be fun to watch what they do. But fucking, it's not like hilarity ensues. It's bloody chaos
No,
ensues.
it's more about just a lot of people who were red hot at the time getting together on screen. So it's like, peak Ben Affleck coming hot the heels of, Good Will Hunting. You got peak Willis, arguably. I know a lot of people will be, what about Die Hard? We've talked about this before, previous on the podcast. Really, he's more of a 90s actor than he is an 80s actor, even though he kind of gets lumped in with Schwarzenegger and Stallone. He really, I still feel like a lot of his peak was in the 90s. Bruckheimer's coming up, Beverly Hills Cop 2, Crimson Tide, Bad Boys, Dangerous Minds. Everyone forgets Dangerous Minds was a massive deal, which links to this film. It was made massive almost because of the Coolio video. The soundtrack to that film was massive, and it kind of led to this film being big. But that was a big part of movies around this time. Sorry, and I'll just finish. It was arguably peak big coming off Bad Boys and The Rock. So he was super hot coming into this. Young as well. He was only like 32 when he made this. Crazy. But that is one of the things you can't escape with this movie is the soundtrack. And specifically, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith. It was just a big deal at the time to have these massive movies and to have these massive songs. Dangerous Minds being one of them with Gangster Paradise. The same year, and there is a reference to it at the start of this film, Godzilla came out the same year, the Roland Emmerich movie. And that had like P. Diddy and what was it? Jamiroquai. Those songs were fucking huge. And this had I Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith, which I think most people actually kind of love, except for, before you say it, I've already said to Bethan, I was like, I think secretly everyone kind of loves this song, except for Rob. Rob will fucking hate this song.
So I don't mind the song. Like it's not one that's in my playlist and I haven't listened to it for a while.
No.
But I don't mind it. The problem, it's not a problem. Actually, it's helped me. When I think of Armageddon, and you've already mentioned the music, and this is a Rob thing, my mind has gone straight to Armageddon, the song by Alkaline Trio. So anytime
That's
Armageddon,
very Rob.
Thank
very
you.
Rob.
Anytime Armageddon is said, I'm just singing Armageddon, let the light in. I just nothing to do with this fucking film. I just can't stop singing.
Well, it shows your lack of attachment to this film completely. But I think for me, it's like the reason this worked for me when I was young, even though it wasn't my favorite, is because, and it was the same reason I loved Bad Boys, especially the first one was a big deal for me and my friends, was that I was the perfect age for Michael Bay when these movies come out. So it was like when I think of phases I've gone through and quickly moved out of. Like when I was really young, I really liked Adam Sandler movies. And then all of a sudden one day I'm like, I don't think I like these anymore. Then all of a sudden it's like these big brash Michael Bay films. I'm like, oh, I love these. But then I get more of a taste for movies. I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of dumb. And then because, you're in university, suddenly you go through a Kevin Smith phase. And then all of a sudden you're just like, oh God, he is a bit limited though. And he's getting a bit annoying now. And I think of all these directors, I've gone through brief phases in my life where I've liked them and then just quickly moved on. I feel like maybe I'm coming back round, like I'm aging back into Adam Sandler, bizarrely. But I think mainly it's because he shows up to award events wearing fucking like popper pants and like jumpers. I fucking love this guy.
It's because he just doesn't care.
I think that's why.
That is the best attitude to have. When it comes to me and you, I've always said like, like everybody else, similarities and differences. So our similarities usually go to the fact we both like movies. Like that's the thing. That's what we've had in common. That's where it kind of ends then when you start talking about the kind of movies that like you love the cinematography. You watch Whiplash because of everything that has. I watch Whiplash and I get bored. And no, yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, no, I just wish you'd stop using that as an example. I fucking love that film so much.
That's but I'm not taking a dig. I'm just saying we're too different. And then when you started going on, like you were going through these phases, you had an Adam Sandler phase. I don't remember having a phase. I didn't think I did until, but I do have a point. I didn't have a phase. I just watched all films. Didn't like it, I wouldn't go back to it. If I liked it, I'd go. I never had a phase of I want to watch this actor or I want to watch this. I just always watched a film. But then I must have hit a pretentious stage because I did have a Kevin Smith phase, as you said.
Kevin Smith pretentious? I don't know. It was, I just think.
Oh, I think it was. I think the way I see it, where it's just talk all the time. That
I think you're right. Actually, I think it's pretentious in a way that we thought we were being highfalutin, because you say it was like dialogue heavy. It was almost like an alternative to the ultra violence of Quentin Tarantino and being like, oh, I like Kevin Smith movies now. And it's easy to forget, because of the way his career's gone since, that he was held in really high regard for a number of years. Like when we got into Kevin Smith, you're talking Clerks was obviously this indie darling. And then, Chasing Amy, like Mallrats, I was never as first on, but I know people were a big fan.
Mallrats was the film that got me into him.
That was always my least favorite of his, what I consider the kind of peak Kevin Smith years. So it's like the first 5 movies. So it's like, what would it be?
Up until Strike Back.
Yeah, up until Jane Bob, which I love. Jane Bob Strike Back, the first one. But everything after that is a real fucking mixed bag. There's a few half-decent films, and I didn't hate Clerks 3, in fairness. I didn't hate it. But most of his recent output has been pretty ropey. But yeah, there were a few years where he was seen as a bit of a darling. And I think we all thought, oh, God, we like Kevin Smith films. And then you go, like I said, it's tricky because you go back and you watch, say, Dogma, like we did for the podcast. And you're like, no, this is actually quite good. He's limited as a director, but he's quite a good writer. Ever since he's got into like getting stoned and all that jazz, I don't know, he's never been the same.
It's so much when the studio stopped giving him money and he's just decided to crowdfund his own things and like get smaller studios to give him.
I think he's talked himself into his own bullshit. He talks so much with all of his podcasts. Yeah. And, he's in this ultimate, like we say about one of the issues with modern day society is everybody's in a bubble. So everyone just, hears what they want to hear and it's all reverberates around and comes right back to them. So everybody seems to have the same opinion as them because we're all locked into these things. And, like whether it be websites or news outlets or Facebook, whatever, blah, 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 Instagram. And I think with Kevin Smith, this is the ultimate example of that because he has all these people who adore him and, listen to his podcast and they're just telling him every idea he has. No, that's fucking awesome. That's fucking awesome. And of course, you put it up on screen and you're just like, you needed someone from the outside to step in and go, dude, that's a fucking dumb idea. You could have said the same about this movie, maybe, but this was the era, as I said in the intro, of the disaster movies. And a big part of the reason that there was, the double features of the 90s, there was this, and there was Deep Impact. There was Dante's Peak, and there was Volcano. Like there was Independence Day. All these movies where they're destroying the world, and it was because there was no existential threat to Western society or real threat. Everything was going awesome. So Hollywood was creating reasons for us to imagine the end of the world. Whereas nowadays we're not making these films because everyone's just like, dude. Every time I look at the news, it looks like the world's going to fucking end. I don't need to see this on the big screen. So until the world turns around and things get a little bit more on the straight and narrow, I don't think there's any danger of seeing Armageddon 2, put it that way.
And I'm all right with that. I mean, Armageddon
apparently
2,
so, yeah.
Armageddon 2, The Return of Bruce Willis. He rode that asteroid all the way. Like, he's still living on it.
I have a great idea, by the way. We'll bring this up later on, remakes and all that bullshit. But I've got a great idea for the sequel to this film. But not what you'd expect.
With this film as well. I mean, the thing is, you said there as well, it's a long film. But as I was watching it, there doesn't seem to be much to talk. Once you get over the fact that it's got all the actors, the plot is entirely stupid. There's not much to talk about with this film, and until I think you get into the destroying of the asteroid at the end. Like when you get Ben Affleck's team presumed dead. Oh wait, they're not dead. They're fine. And then they do that evil Knievel jump over that. Like, again, okay, I'm not a scientist. Obviously, we've said this before.
That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, but I still like somebody to explain to me how he's able to jump a canyon in space.
Well, that's one of the things. NASA actually used this movie as a training tool for new recruits to see how many inaccuracies. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Supposedly, they've spotted 168 thus far. One of the few that they actually get wrong is when they duct tape Steve Buscemi up because he has quote-unquote space dementia. Space dementia is theoretically a real thing or something NASA was actually concerned about enough for there to be things in place. And one of the responses they had to it, if somebody had space dementia, is to tape them up with duct tape. So that was, as ludicrous as that sequence is one of the actual few accurate scenes in this movie. But yeah,
speaking of
course, none of it makes sense.
Speaking of Steve Buscemi, he wants to die. So if he's willing to blow up the bomb, wouldn't you let him?
No, because you can't trust him with humanities. We are talking about the continued existence of humanity. You need someone, compos mentis, who's not going to go out throw it up in the air and suddenly be like, fuck everything, because he very much had that in the locker. No, I agree that they needed somebody to go out there and make sure the job got done.
Let him go. Go on, mate. Go blow the nuke up.
If you could guarantee that he would do it, I would, but there is a very real world chance that he would go out there and shit the fucking bed. So no, you need somebody to go out there and do a proper job when it comes to saving the universe. That's one of the few things I think they did right in this film.
You had the astronaut. You had William Fichtner playing the colonel, and he's about to blow the bomb because that's his mission. His mission is to blow the bomb. If they're not going to drill deep enough, he's going to blow it. And you've got everyone going, Harry.
Oh, is that the override sequence? Sorry, I have to bring this up while you're talking about it. Of all the dumb things in this film, as soon as they mention the override sequence, 20 guys come out of lifts immediately like they've been waiting in lifts for just this moment. You talked about timing inconsistencies. The moment they say, oh, we're going to have to override the override, 40 fucking dudes just come out of lifts. I'm just like, where the fuck did they come from? It's so dumb.
Again, William Fichtner's an army colonel. Right, I'm assuming he's had combat training. He gets taken out by an oil driller.
Well, of course, because they're salt of the earth and they know how to fight. I mean, you can see these guys, they can take care of themselves. I mean, Bear, for instance, he carries around the largest wrench in human history.
Yeah.
It's somehow that so
wrench
big.
Is so comical. I don't even think it's used for anything.
It's so big that it somehow makes him look gay, and I can't explain it, but it makes him look gay. It just fucking
not
does.
Just because of the wrench. It's the way he's wearing
the hats, the
suspenders, and the tiny hat. He's wearing suspenders. Basically, he's about to break into YMCA.
That's exactly what I thought. It was like I think it's supposed to make him look big and tough. You don't need to give him the comically oversized spanner, and maybe they do exist, but they look absolutely ridiculous. Oh my God, this film is a lot of fun. I know you hate it, and I'm not going to try and talk you off the ledge because this film is dumb as a bag of hammers, but I do have a bit of time for it.
So, Max, right? We have done 3 of Max's 4 known fours.
Max,
the basically, for lack of a better word, the fat guy.
Oh, the fat guy. Oh, sorry, of course. Max, who they should have never let into space.
Yeah.
And not just because he's fat, like everything about him, he's clearly borderline mentally challenged. And they're like, no, we'll send him up. Surely, right, even if you're going with this plan, which makes no sense, you send up the fucking astronauts with the drilling training, of course you do. But if you do go with this plan, surely you go with a 50-50 fucking split of being like, all right, dude, we can send up some of the drilling guys to make sure we're doing a good job, but we don't need Max. I'll tell you this much right now. We don't. Oh, but no, they're the best of the best. What the fuck makes that dude best of the best? I'm just not having it. So sorry. But yes, we've done 3 of Max's known fours.
We've done 3 of his 4. We will do the 4th at some point, but we've done 3 of his 4.
I literally can't think of another film he's in. So this is amazing. I'm looking forward to the answer.
So Armageddon, obviously, Max.
Obviously.
Groundhog Day, he was man in the hallway. Do you think we'll see the shadow?
That is, well, yeah, I wouldn't have got that in a million years in fairness. But yeah, now you've mentioned that, I can see him.
Home Alone, he was Santa.
Oh, fuck, dude, I would have never got that.
No.
I would have never got that. Yeah, of course he's Santa. And a good Santa at that. He's the one who gives him Skittles, right?
He gives him a Tic Tac, doesn't he?
Oh, Tic Tac, that's it, not Skittles, a Tic Tac, of course.
And his 4th one.
Here we go.
Do you remember the Kelsey Grammer down periscope?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
he was. Are we? Sorry, just to be clear. Are we really going to do down? How many episodes do we have to do on this podcast before we get to fucking down Periscope?
Dude, I remember having such a good. I've watched down Periscope more than I've seen Armageddon. Like, I remember having a fun time with that.
Yeah, you remember having a fun time with that. Yes, I just feel like this is one of those ones, man. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, and that's I guess that's the purpose of this podcast.
I said the brief of the podcast was the films we grew up with. Do they still hold up? There's down Periscope. There's the fat jokes from Buckman because he's the fat chef. Do they still hold up in 2020? I don't know, 26, whenever we cover it.
I'm going to take a punt and say no, but maybe we'll find out sooner rather than later, apparently.
Oh, fucking said that. Sorry.
Well, actually, mention the cast members. I totally forgot that Michael Bay is in this film. Like, he makes a cameo as a scientist, like right at the start of the film. I don't mind that because he's in it. He doesn't speak. It's a blink and you'll miss it. Just don't do the whole M. Night Shyamalan thing. Because M. Night Shyamalan insists on fucking acting in his films, and no one's got the heart to tell him, dude, you can't act. I mean, some people argue you can't direct. I would be counter to that because I actually think he's a good director. He just needs better material and someone to rein. He was one of those guys who was a victim of his own success because Sixth Sense was such a big hit. Everyone just gave him free reign, kind of like with George Lucas and Star Wars. Like the talent's there, you just needed somebody to rein in his kind of worst, instincts. And nobody did that for M. Night Shyamalan for fucking years, and you end up with these absolutely stupid films. But he's a good director at heart, I think. But he's a terrible actor, so don't put yourself in movies anymore, dude.
Mark Boone Jr. was in this as well.
It's such a stacked cast.
Yeah. And also
there's a million people in this film. That's what. Sorry to bring it back to your point earlier.
I'll go on.
It was just you were saying earlier about like why is this so long? Because I agree with you. It takes them fucking ages to get to space. It takes them even longer to get to the asteroid. It's because they're not only are they fundamentally setting up a ludicrous concept, which we all take for granted now. But when this film came out, they had to explain and try and justify why they're sending these clowns to space. And not just that, while it's awesome that there's 100 famous people in this film, you've got to give them all a bit of screen time, and that just stretches this out to like 2 hours 20. When really this film, if it was your version of this film, which you mentioned earlier, the Star movie, where it's just Bruce Willis and a bunch of who the fuck ever's, this film's 90 minutes long. It's just because
and they all die except him. He makes it. He flies the plane. He flies the shuttle home. Going back to the actors, sorry, because you kind of stepped on my toes there. Hope John Paul II, of course, just in the crowd.
That's great cast
list. Yeah.
I was going to go for Liv Tyler because we've not mentioned that. And just be clear, mid-90s Liv Tyler. Jesus Christ. If you want to know how much I was in love with Liv Tyler around this time, go back and listen to our Empire Records podcast where I spend most of it just fawning over her. She's just one of the most beautiful creatures in the world. If nothing else, her and Ben Affleck would have made very pretty kids because they are, whatever you might say about, Ben Affleck, he's a handsome man in 1998. Make no mistake about it. But Liv Tyler, Jesus Christ. Like I said, she doesn't get nearly enough to do. This is the ultimate dude bro movie in many respects, but at least there is, Liv Tyler does a good job with the limited amount she's given. But as I said, she really does just get given a script which says look concerned for an hour.
They obviously liked her and Ben Affleck's chemistry. Mm-hmm. Well, one person did because Kevin Smith cast them both together as lovers, didn't he? In that was it Jersey Girl?
Jersey Girl, not the worst Kevin Smith film. I'm just going to go out there and say it. Yeah, that film got fucking slaughtered. It was like a whole backlash thing. It was because the whole Bennifer thing with Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez was like at its peak and people were looking to tear him down. I'm not saying Jersey Girl's a great film, but I watched it. I was like, this is fine. Like, put it this way.
Terrible.
If you look at a lot of Kevin Smith films, it falls somewhere in the middle. It easily falls in the middle somewhere. And he's good. Like, okay, like Ben Affleck is a good actor. Like, if you have any doubts as to Ben Affleck's like talent, just go and watch The Town. The Town is I waited far too long to watch The Town. I watched it for the first time, like, legitimately last year. And I was like, no, that's what all the fuss is about. Yeah. And I was like, fuck, this film's amazing. Do you know the film that bizarrely got me to watch The Town was Den of Thieves. Was a film I was just like, I'm not sure about this film. This looks dumb. I watched Den of Thieves. I was like, I kind of fucking love Den of Thieves. And then people are like, oh no, well, imagine Den of Thieves, but good. And that's kind of The Town. The Town's awesome.
Another Ben Affleck one, The Accountant, I think is so underrated and fantastic.
Bizarrely, that film just kind of passed me by. I remember it being a thing. I was going to go see it at the cinema, and it's like, you're like, I'll see it in the cinema. And then for one reason or another, we just didn't get around to it. And then it just kind of dropped out of my head. And now I'm seeing the trailers for The Accountant. I'm like, dude, The Accountant 2. Not only does the trailer for Accountant 2 look amazing, I looked at the box office for The Accountant. That film was fucking huge.
Yeah. For some reason, because Ben Affleck has said as well, again, being candid as fuck, he's like, yeah, of all the films people just keep having to go in a nice way, having to go at me about was The Accountant. Like, at least
I knew that there was going to be an Accountant too, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, not only do I want to see this, I've got to go watch the original now.
He said, I'll have 10 people a week just coming up to me going, when's The Accountant 2 coming out? Because The Accountant was great. When's The Accountant? I was like, fucking hell. But no, honestly, it is very good. You should watch it.
I need to get on board with that. So I totally missed out when you mentioned him earlier. Steve Buscemi as Rockhound. This is the second movie in 2 weeks, both in 1998, where we have what can only be described as a lovable paedophile in it. After Jesus in The Big Lebowski, and then just being like, oh yeah, he's this super iconic character who just happens to be a sex offender.
Because the police come up on the oil rig and he goes, I swear to God, Harry, she told me she was 18 or whatever.
There's so many jokes, and it's bizarre because he actually took the role in this movie because he was supposed to be playing a quote unquote serious geologist because he was worried he's being typecast as like these like creepy characters because he's coming off like Fargo and all these other things, and he's like, oh, I want to play someone straight laced, and he was written straight laced, but as the script progressed, his character just became weirder and weirder, and I'm like, Steve, mate, you should have looked at your name, Rockhound, and thought, this is going to go one of two ways. So, yeah, it went the other way, and he turned into an absolute sleazeball as always, which he's fantastic at. But, yeah.
They put two things, like Rock, obviously, because he was a geologist in this, and then
Hound because he loved pussy.
Yeah, so they just put two together and went, you're now Rockhound. Like, fucking hell.
So ridiculous, so ridiculous. But
I mean, and then you got William Fichtner as Colonel Willie Shaw. What a name.
There's some great names in this film. There's some great names, but
Owen Wilson comes out of nowhere as Oscar. Like,
yeah. Again, they almost feel like he kind of gets killed off quite unceremoniously because at some point you have to start killing people off, and people have to die because, as you mentioned, you said earlier that everybody makes bad decisions. I think the only truly bad decision in this film is sending them into space, which is the crux of the movie. This isn't like a horror movie where they have to make bad decisions to keep the plot going. No, this is a movie where things have to go wrong for the plot to keep moving. And I don't think there has ever been a movie where more things have gone wrong in human history. It is fucking right up to the final shot with Bruce Willis when he goes off the ship and does his hero moment. Even then, he gets blown up in the fucking air, and it's like, oh, is he going to make it? It's like, guys, man, like by the end, like, who is it? AJ and Lev in particular. There is a sequence when they go up to the space station, which looks amazing, by the way. The gravity doesn't make any sense. That's like a common falsity that you get in movies, where there's gravity on the space station because the ship is spinning to create like a false gravity. That doesn't exist. So they should all be floating around, but all right, we'll let it go. That sequence looks amazing and shot wonderfully. And it's like the intro. Why does the intro largely still look so great? It's because Michael Bay is actually blowing shit up. He's not, like, obviously there's CG, but every time he can blow something up, he's blowing that motherfucker up. And that's why this looks great. But Lev and Ben Affleck, they just about escaped the space station in a miraculous escape. Their spacecraft then fucking crash lands on an asteroid. They survive. Then they have to miraculously travel across an asteroid to find the other crew, including the aforementioned space jump. They fucking survive. I'm like, come on, guys. I mean, we by definition, we're stretching credulity just by the concept of this film. It just keeps going and going and going. Although I was trying to convince myself, if we take the space jump on its own, so this is when they're on the buggy and they have to jump across the canyon. Makes no sense, sure. Is it any dumber than the bus jump in Speed? Because that, as soon as you stop and think about it, like, the bus jump would never work. The physics are just so obviously against
I don't know. I think this feels dumber.
Oh, it does. It does. I was trying to give it a, get out of jail free card, but no, you're right. It's dumber.
Hey, do you know, you mentioned as well, you mentioned Steve Buscemi and I can't remember the other name you said, who was in Big Lebowski last week.
Paul Stamets. Not Paul Stamets. Sorry, Peter Stamets.
Who knew as well that the link, I know there's a link because the actors are in it, but there's a film that links these two randomly, is Roadhouse.
That is random. Ben
Gazzara and Sam Elliott from Big Lebowski. Ben Gazzara playing the porn guy. I can't remember his name from that.
Yeah.
Were Roadhouse. And the other pilot of the doomed shuttle, the crashes, is played by Marshall R. Teague, who was Jimmy in Roadhouse, the one who gets his throat ripped out.
There's so many weird crossovers. We've had this recently in the podcast. Remember, we had like a few weeks ago, because a lot of our podcasts were like late 80s, early 90s, and they were all connected by HBO's Tales from the Crypt episodes. It just seemed to come up every single week. Now it just seems to be around 1998. There's all these crossovers, and it's because all these movies have ginormous casts. I was trying to think, did Godzilla have a massive cast? It didn't, did it? Like, because I guess a big thing over that, like the star of the show was Godzilla. I guess that was a big.
Well, I don't know. Matthew Broderick, Jean Reno, Hank Azaria.
Yeah, but it wasn't compared to like this and Con Air. Like, these are like I said,
these
it wasn't
like
epics.
Yeah, it wasn't big, like massive names. They were names that people knew, but they weren't like I guess household. I mean, Matthew Broderick, but
No, Matthew Broderick was a big star, but I meant more in terms of breadth of stars rather than quality of star. I mean, don't get me wrong, Matthew Broderick, as much as I love him, he's no Bruce Willis. But yeah, they didn't. That film was much more in the kind of like the star of the movie is Godzilla.
You get Matthew Broderick, Jean Reno, and then you get Maria Patillo, who, okay, Hank Azaria, and then you go down to like Kevin Dunn and Michael Lerner. So you're not getting 10 names that you know.
Out of interest, because I'm not going to pick this for our end of the world season, were you a fan of Godzilla? Because that was, I know it's at the end of the world, but that was a disaster movie in the same kind of ilk. It was very much going up against this, and it had a similarly awesome poster. So this, like the teaser poster for this was the aforementioned asteroid coming through Grand Central Station with Godzilla. It was just his fucking foot stepping on a tank or something. And I remember loving the soundtrack. I equally remember that being such a big deal, and I was so the right age for it. But I also remember it being kind of rubbish.
Yeah, no, I wasn't a fan of it.
No.
I think I've seen it once, and I was just it just wasn't for me. It was just, again,
I love Godzilla,
not enough of being attacked by a giant lizard. And Godzilla wasn't Godzilla in that anyway.
No, they tried to recreate him for Western audiences, and I'm one of those guys. Like, I love Godzilla, but there's a million Japanese movies I can watch those, and obviously they've done him justice with the more recent movies. I actually think is it Gareth Edwards who did the 2016?
Yeah, he did the original. He did the 2014 one, didn't he?
14 one, yeah. I actually really love that film, and I actually thought that the first Godzilla X Kong movie was surprisingly decent. The second one was fucking ass. But anyway,
was the second one where you had Dan Stevens as the weird?
Yeah, Dan Stevens, in fairness, is one of the few good things in that movie, and I'll go to but Dan Stevens is just the best. I want to go off on another tangent now and tell everyone to watch The Guest. But seriously, that's worth doing. If you're listening to this podcast, you're going to have a certain taste in movies. If you haven't seen The Guest starring Dan Stevens, do yourself a favor. Don't fucking watch this movie. Watch The Guest. It is amazing. And Dan Stevens, I mean, he should have been an A-lister after that. And it kind of tipped him up into like supporting character in big movies, but he feels like the next A-lister when he makes that film in particular. It's unbelievably good.
Yeah, the guy that directed The Guest, Adam Wingard, he had a bit of a rough, like, his last couple of films, wasn't it? He did that like remake or the like requel, legacy sequel of Blair Witch. Then he did Death Note. Then he did Godzilla X Kong, and then Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. So
yeah, but those films have done massive business. And there's another film I'm oddly going to go to bat for. Death Note was not that fucking bad. It wasn't that bad.
I
like the manga.
Audiences thing, it's not too bad.
No, the fucking nerds came out. Oh, it doesn't look like it was perfectly fucking decent, that film. It was just the nerds went to town on it. It was like an absolute pile-on. It's a 3-star film. It's absolutely a 3-star fucking movie.
Yeah, it's fine. It's absolutely fine.
I'm glad we agree. I just feel like those films need to be defended. I'm not saying it's a fucking masterpiece, but the vitriol aimed at that film, and I was just like, because I love Death Note, and I was like, oh, I'll give it a go. And I was like, this is perfectly decent. Anyway, one thing I totally forgot about this film is the fact that Paris just gets completely wiped off the map. Like in one of like the big special effects movies, like everyone, like, when they kind of save the world at the end, and it's almost like, oh, wait a minute, what about Paris? Paris is fucking destroyed. It actually looks pretty cool when they blow it up, but yeah, Paris just gets dealt with. The other thing I forgot is, why do the buggies have miniguns on them? What the fuck is that about?
So they could get themselves out of the ship. I mean, how else are they going to get out of the ship? They knew this. They had to put miniguns on it. That's the only reason they put them on there. Were they miniguns, or were they meant to be like some? Because I had to think about it. Or were they like some sort of like I don't know, nail gun, kind of like rivet gun? So
I'm saying it's a minigun, man. It looks like you get the whole scene with Steve Buscemi shooting the fuck out of it. It just looks and sounds like a minigun. It's like you said, there's no reason for it to be there other than they were just like, how are we going to get the buggy out of the ship? I know, gun. A big.
It's going to work in space.
Well, that's the thing. They kind of get away from that, don't they? They say that the asteroid has a level of gravity because it's moving.
Only if you're like on the asteroid, mind. As soon as you jump up a little bit, obviously gravity doesn't care.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing with this film. You're just getting over how dumb the premise is, and then they get to the asteroid, and I don't know, and maybe someone can tell me and make sense of it. When they land on the asteroid, they don't land with wheels. And by the way, when they land back on Earth, the ship has wheels again. We'll let that go. They land on the asteroid with just legs. I'm like, aren't those motherfuckers just bent? Even then, when it's just like horizontal, they've magically landed. How the fuck did they take off from a starting? That doesn't make any sense. Horizontally, they're just going to go into the. There are so many problems with this film. The logic is insane. But if we just let that go,
seem to have
everything on the asteroid is fucking crazy.
The ship seemed to have like 3 levels as well. Like they kept going upstairs and going up like lifts and stuff, and it was just like, where the fuck are you going? I'm really,
yeah.
Oh,
every time I stop and think, and that's the thing. Every so often with this film, I would get into this mindset, which obviously you couldn't escape, which I totally understand. The whole like, but why? And I was like, no. This film isn't supposed to make sense. Just let it go. Just fucking let it go and enjoy.
I couldn't.
And if you can, which I could, like I said, there's a version of this film where they kind of try and apply a modicum of common sense. It's called Deep Impact. It was released around the same time. It's a perfectly decent film, but you know what it is? It's kind of dour and boring. This film is much dumber, but it is more fun. There's just no two ways about it. And if you can really leave your brain at the door and just go with the fantastic actors on screen, the mostly decent direction, and the sheer scale of it, there's a fun movie here. I appreciate not for you, but like the one thing I'll say is, the whole idea when the questions we ask is, does this movie hold up? This film is exactly the same as it was in 1998. Like, for the most part, the special effects have held up, but this film was dumb as fuck in 1998, and it's dumb as fuck in 2025. It's not one of those films like, if you have rose-tinted glasses, don't go back to this. It's like, no. If you remember liking this, and you watch it today, you'll probably like it today. It's the same fucking film. It feels exactly the same. But like you, if you didn't like it in 1998, you're not going to suddenly watch this with a new sense of like appreciation in 2025. You're going to be like, no, this film is still shit. It just feels exactly the same.
I was just like you said, you can't let things go. It's like, we need to get you to space as soon as possible. We need to get you refueled on the Russian ship, then we need to get you to this asteroid. That's fine. But we got enough time for you to butcher a rendition of Leaving on a Jet Plane. That's absolutely fine. We'll just stop and we'll do that. That's not a problem at all. We'll let you have a week off. We'll let Rockhound go to a loan shack. We'll let Ben Affleck do some weird thing with crackers on Liv Tyler's belly, which I bet you were a fan of, but okay. It just
I could do that.
I did like mine. I did like when the police broke up Rockhound's little thing. And then he's going, call NASA, we're astronauts. And then you had that biker dude going, yeah, we're astronauts.
And we're supposed to be surprised when shit goes, hits the fan as soon as they actually end up there. But I guess that's part of the point. But just certain things, you know how this movie is going to work out. It's like, you keep mentioning Chekhov's gun, the whole Chekhov's oil digging equipment. It's just like, as soon as you have that moment early in the film where AJ asks Harry, it's like, Harry, you got to trust me with it, and he won't trust him. And they do it again later on when they're doing the training. You're like, I wonder if they're going to have a moment at the end of this film when Harry has to trust AJ to dig a little bit further. Of course, that's coming. Somebody's going to have to stay behind. Like, how the fuck they don't, maybe he doesn't want to figure out. Maybe AJ wants to appear to be the hero. But as soon as like Harry says, I'll walk you down, why do you need to walk him down? Why do you have to walk him to the door? Nobody needs to do that. Of course he's going to take your place. Of course that's going to happen. And Bruce Willis is going to be the hero. I guess by that point, it's super dumb. But when they have the moment between Harry and Liv Tyler, I don't know why I'm using one fictional name and one real name, between Bruce Willis and Liv Tyler. For some odd reason, Liv Tyler looks like she's taking that call in the Batcave. I don't know what's going on there with all the TV screens. But one of my friends told me, and this was in 1998, that he cried during that sequence. I still remember that today. We fucking slaughtered him. I know that's not very 2025 to slaughter a guy because he had emotions. But yeah, one of my friends told me, he's like, dude, I cried at the end of Armageddon when Bruce Willis was talking to Liv Tyler. We fucking teed off on him. That was what? Nearly 30 years ago.
I'm sorry.
I still remember it fondly to this day.
I'm sorry, 2025? That guy's a pussy. Do I know him?
No, you don't. No, you don't, sadly.
Or a pussy crying at that, like.
In fairness, I appreciate that I'm dead inside, and as we mentioned before, you're dead inside. So maybe not the perfect example, but it's
we're not the best guys to go on about shedding tears at a film.
No, well, perhaps, but I'm not completely dead inside. Even if I'm not crying, so I appreciate, if a moment can have like an emotional impact on me, 100%. That is so overall. It's so cheesy. It's so going for the tears that, we really did give him a hard time about that.
Yeah, I'd like to give him a hard time about that. Fucking hell. This entire film is so dumb that you just can't like try at any of it.
Well, it's hard to take it seriously, but what I love as well is you have it running throughout the movie. So it's like, although I can never quite make sense of Michael Bay. So he's like, you have that sequence earlier in the film where he's just shitting on Greenpeace. It's like, fuck you, Greenpeace, trying to save the earth, you bunch of pussies, we're America and all that. But then they have like, you think it's going to be like this big pro-military thing, which he usually is. But then like he's pro-NASA over, and he makes the government look like idiots later on in the film. But then throughout it, he has, beyond the fact that he constantly has people making speeches in front of American flags, which if you're not American, it feels a bit much. It's like when Bruce Willis is giving his speech to Billy Bob Thornton about why it's going to work. He is literally being framed by a gigantic American flag. And every time they cut to, I mentioned it earlier, the fact that the movie is filled with cliched representations of like Chinese people and British people and all that jazz. Every time they cut to anyone in America, and everyone looks like they're in a fucking Coca-Cola advert pointing out Santa in the middle of summer. It looks like it's happening in 1956. Every cunt is wearing dungarees and driving on like, dusty roads. It's such a ridiculous interpretation. It is very much that make America great interpretation of the country. Like everybody is playing baseball in fucking Alabama. It's a silly film from start to finish, but one that I do kind of enjoy. Do you have anything else, Rob, before we move on to favorite scene?
No, I mean, dumb. This film is just dumb.
Okay, yeah, it's totally dumb. I'm not going to argue with that. For me, it probably is the meteor shower in New York is still pretty impactful. I remember that was like, for all the talk of like the big asteroid, and they make the asteroid look cool. Space actually looks really impressive in this film. But that big, that opening salvo, both literally and figuratively, in New York City still looks amazing, I think, and really does kind of like, set you up for the rest of the film.
Yeah. For me, it's the introduction of Peter Stormare, Lev. I mean, a guy that just told you exactly what was going on in this entire film. Like, he's the real astronaut. You listen to him. Like, as soon as he came on screen, he is meant to be comic relief. He is comic relief. And it's just, nobody's listening to this dude who basically because the way he speaks and the way he acts, you don't believe this guy is an actual actor. Like, how the fuck did he come in? He's been in space for what? 18 months on his own. Of course, he's a bit of a fucking lunatic.
Yeah, you need him in this film. You do need a bit of levity at that point, and something completely not American, even if it is cliche ridden. But please do remember that Peter Stormare, despite the fact that he plays Russian after Russian on screen, is actually Swedish. Yeah. So yeah, he said before, he's just like, I found my niche. They're just like, he looks the part. He can do the accent. Nobody asks any questions. Oh, he's European, close enough to Russia. He's off to the races. Absolutely, he is great in this film.
He said it in an interview once. I can't remember who it was, but I think he was next to. He was. I think
it was with Graham Norton, maybe.
It was either Graham Norton or it was James Corden. He was with Keanu Reeves, and he said our studios just don't understand. American studios just haven't got a clue. They come in and say, "Can you speak Russian? Like, can you do a Russian accent?" He said, "I just speak my accent." They go, "Great." He said, "Can you do an Eastern European?" "Yeah, I just speak my accent." "That's great." "Can you do German?" "Yeah, I just speak my accent." And they just let him out. He's just speaking
the one thing he arguably can't do. He is swinging for the fences with that Russian accent. It is broad as fuck. But I've got a lot of time for it, obviously. In terms of loves and hates, so loves for me, number one, unsurprisingly, the cast. Absolutely fantastic, top to bottom. Like I said, it feels more like a Wes Anderson cast than a blockbuster movie cast. Two, still looks largely brilliant. Beyond the kind of, very 90s color palette, this film largely holds up. I was pleasantly surprised by how good this film looked, because as I said, any movie when you're going back, it's like a big visual spectacular from like the mid to late 90s, like, this could be rough, but nah, it still looks really good. And number three, like, for all its faults, it fully commits to the premise. Like, there's no winking to the camera here. Every time you think they might wink about the premise, instead they just double down on another speech from Willis in front of an American flag. It's dumb as fuck, But I think the reason it works to one extent or another is because it just totally doubles down. It's just like, no, we're going for all this. And of course, that means like the joy of it is that you get Ben Affleck doing the DVD commentary afterwards, pointing out just how ludicrous it all is. But for the movie to work, I don't think you can have the whole wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It has to believe that it makes sense. In the same way, like with bad movies, like you can take joy from watching like really bad movies, like Ed Wood or something like that. The reason those work and the reason I can't stand stuff like Sharknado is because those movies think that they're good. The director thinks they're making a good movie. And for one reason or another, it's just turned into a fucking train wreck. I think you can take joy from that. I can't enjoy films where they're making purposefully bad movies. I can just see them trying and it just doesn't work. And it's similar with stuff like this. If you start winking and nodding, I'm not on this journey. Is like if you're making something this ridiculous, you almost have to take it as seriously as they do. So, I think it gets it over the line, just about.
Shall I do my really quick segment on Loves?
Yeah, sure, go for it. Go for it. I'm sure you can get. You can't just have like 3 different cast members. That won't.
No.
By the way.
No, what I mean is when we first did this, when we first talked about this segment, we go, it's a quick fire. 3 loves, 3 hates. We move on. You have never done quick fire.
Oh well, wait until we get to hates.
You've gone. I love this, and then you go on for about 10 minutes and about.
Hey, listen, I'm just passionate.
The core cast, especially, and we haven't given him enough credit. Will Patton as Chicky. Will Patton is fucking great in this. He is
quite good.
The sidekick that's just gone on forever. He's been with Harry S. Stamper for years at this point, and it's just
he's like one of the few characters who feels relatively down to earth. And we've not mentioned one other, right? I have to ask this, right? What happened? Is Gruber part of their group or is he part of the NASA group? Because there is one extra dude. When you see them all, like all his buddies, there's one extra guy who's got dark hair all throughout the film. And I'm just like, wait, is he part of the fucking rig? And he goes up to space. And at some point, I'm like, does he just disappear? Or does he, because at the end, he dies and Ben Affleck's like, oh, Gruber's dead. And we're like, we don't care. Who the fuck? I feel like there's like 20 minutes of Gruber sitting on the cutting room floor, but they've left it in that sequence of Ben Affleck going, oh no, Gruber's dead. Who the fuck is Gruber?
Gruber is from the oil rig. He's one of the guys when they're doing the
That's what I thought.
None of them want to pay taxes thing ever. I think Gruber's the guy who's got some women he wants to come over from a different state or a different country.
He is the ultimate non-entity of this film, and I feel bad for him because I feel like
him and Owen Wilson might. Owen Wilson just wanted to go to the White House.
Yeah, but Owen Wilson leaves an impact. Maybe it's just because you know who Owen Wilson is, but he has like his little speeches and stuff. Like when they're on, like he does that great speech about being scared. Like, oh, I'm 98% excited, 2% scared. Oh, maybe 2% excited. No, I don't even know anymore. And it's such an Owen Wilson quote. And you're just like, he has his moment. Whereas Gruber, he's just like, oh, Gruber's dead. I'm like, I don't care. I forgot he was a thing. But anyway, sorry. This is literally what you were talking about just then. This is supposed to be a quick section, and I've sabotaged you again.
A year after, Gruber has starred in a TV movie called Airtight, right?
Awesome.
In the future, Earth has run out of air, and it's up to the, in quotes, Air Force to rescue the world.
Brilliant. Well, finally, he's had his dues. He's had the opportunity to shine on the screen, which wasn't provided in Armageddon, sadly.
Right. So, that was my number 1.
Yeah, go for it. I'll be quiet now. Yeah, go for number 2.
I've got to say, the introduction of... Sorry, not even introduction. Just as you said it right, but the fact that they knew how stupid this film was and they just played on it. It's absolutely stupid. And they just decided, that'll... So I like the fact that they doubled down on it. It's just stupid.
Got to commit to the piece,
Yeah. Number 3, the space stuff. To a point, the space stuff is great up until they start doing Evel Knievel shit on the asteroid, or you got Rockhound like shooting shit into space, and like they're still in space. I know there's a modicum of gravity, but
that's one of this movie's biggest issues is that every time I'm like, commit to the piece and all that jazz. but they always push it a little bit too far. It's like even when they're on Earth and you're just getting your head around the idea that, oh my God, they're actually going to pick drillers to go up instead of astronauts. And then they do the whole like physical, when they test them all, and they're obviously none of them are fit for purpose whatsoever. And they have the whole training sequence. They're all terrible. I'm just like, oh my God, you could at least show them having just maybe a modicum of competency. And it's the same. It's like you finally get them onto this asteroid. They've miraculously all survived. And then immediately things keep going wrong again, and they keep fucking up. And you're just like, all right, dude, man, just calm it down. Let's just have 2 minutes of people doing their job correctly. Prove to me for 1 second why these guys should be up here. But anyway.
I'm sneaking in a fourth as well, right? Because I don't think anyone has ever done Armageddon and mentioned this guy's name and given him his flowers. Mark Curry as the cabbie, as Stu the cabbie. Mark Curry, we probably remember from Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Used to be on Channel 4.
Christ, man, that is a deep cut. So yeah, you might be the first person who's just like, he deserves his flowers for this film. But hey, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. In terms of hates, number one, I've already mentioned it literally just a moment ago. They take an already ludicrous premise and then push it beyond credulity. Number two, is it a waste of a truly amazing cast? Maybe, as I said, it's that weird one where the cast make this movie work, but also you've got all that talent. You probably could have applied it to a better concept. And number three, like all Bay movies, you could tone down on the editing. And as I mentioned earlier, you should also bring in a second unit director for anything even remotely emotional. You could even bring in, I'm not even sure if a second unit screenwriter is a real thing, but maybe you could do that as well because he's not the best screenwriter. This film actually saying that has loads of screenwriters, like I think it has like 6 and a lot of talented ones, including a young J.J. Abrams is one of the screenwriters.
This is probably where J.J. Abrams learned his lens flare from.
Maybe. But I could add a bunch of others like lose the Shanghai scene, tone down the Stoic scenes in front of American flags. And this is one I just wanted to add in terms of it could have been a love or a hate. Do we love or hate the complete abandonment of logic? Is it the stupidity which ultimately makes this movie work? I still haven't quite made my mind up on that.
Well, there we go. That's my number one.
Okay,
I'm going to contradict myself because as much as I said, I like the fact that they just ran with the stupid, and I do like the fact they ran with the stupidity. That works into
exactly what I said then. It works on both levels, I think.
But also, it's dumb as a bag of hammers. It is fucking like. Is it a day you've been gone? Is it 2 days? Apparently, is it 6 months? Because AJ now has his own business that he's happy to leave. He has his own business because it literally says AJ's oil field.
I'm still amazed of all the ridiculous things in this film that you keep coming back to that. It's unbelievable.
It's so stupid. Like you fired him. You've all gone off the rig. Like you all split. Not just that, they've all had to fly. To their respective places in.
No, I'm with you, and it is silly. I'm just going to suggest politely that there are bigger problems in this film when it comes to logic than that. But
you want bigger problems? I didn't know how to feel about Michael Clarke Duncan stripping in the.
Well, that's what I mentioned earlier with the whole like, when they're supposed to be doing their medicals and suddenly you got Michael Clarke. I'm just like, do we need this sequence? I don't think we do, but hey.
And I don't know, Billy Bob Thornton seemed a bit wasted. I think. That's my number two.
I think he's quite good in this. I quite like him.
And I can't believe you didn't mention it, but number 3 is April O'Neil as Judith Hogue. She is Judith Hogue. Judith Hogue is Chichi's kid's mum. I don't even know her name in this. Like fucking evil. Oh, Denise. There you go. Evil woman.
Oh yeah. She's absolutely terrible. And like I said, that is an oversight on my part. Any alternative titles to this film?
Well, yes and no. So most of them are like Armageddon, Nash, right?
I would have thought so.
Austria, Armageddon, The Last Judgment.
No, these are all going to feel superfluous, that's for sure.
Yep. Italy, Armageddon, Final Judgment.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep Romania for a minute. Let's see if I got any other. Taiwan, Doomsday.
It's just called Doomsday, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, there was a movie called Doomsday a few years after this by Scottish director from The Descent.
With Ronan Mitra. Yeah.
I thought Ronan Mitra was a thing for a while.
I like that film.
I didn't. I was so looking forward to it because I fucking loved The Descent. The Descent. And then I was like, oh, dude, it's like set in Scotland. I was like, this is such a cool concept. Ronan Mitra was like, this came out when I was like 19, 20. It was just like smoking hot. And I just couldn't. I didn't hate it, but it was just a disappointment.
Vietnam Apocalypse.
Again, wasn't there a Bruce Willis film called Apocalypse? Oh no, there
No,
was a
that was the game.
video
The
game.
game,
Video
yeah.
game, sorry, of
From like
course.
99, I think, or 97
Yeah,
or
yeah.
99, one of
That
them.
was a
Uh,
bizarre experiment, wasn't it?
but the winner has to be Romania. With Armageddon slash the end of the world? Question mark?
Does it, oh, as long as it has, I was like, does it actually have a question mark, or have you
Yeah.
added that for effect?
No. It
I
has a
guess
question
that
mark.
I guess that, as dumb as it is, it kind of makes sense. It's like Armageddon. Is it the end of the world? Tune in to find out. One of those kind of vibes. It's not bad. I still go Romania for this week's winner. Facts. I know there's going to be a bunch, and you have to
Yeah.
pick a few.
So,
Pick your favorites.
regarding the film's premise, Ben Affleck asked director Michael Bay, wouldn't it be easier for NASA to train astronauts how to drill rather than training drillers to be astronauts? Bay told Affleck to shut the fuck up. However,
Yeah.
the reasoning behind sending drillers rather than training astronauts is actually addressed in the movie. When Harry is initially summoned to NASA, it is with the intention of him helping to prepare real astronauts to do the drilling. It is not until he explains the job is too complex and unpredictable for him to teach others in a few weeks what he learned over several decades
That doesn't help.
no, that they start to consider training real drillers to become astronauts. It still doesn't help because astronauts. It's like
Yeah,
not everybody can be
no.
an astronaut.
Yeah, no. Definitely training idiots to become astronauts is much trickier than training astronauts to become drillers. And again, as they mentioned in the film, those astronauts have already been training for 8 weeks. Surely you can just iron out the issues. They may have made some errors. You're a driller, I get it. And again, in a perfect world, you take Bruce Willis up with you. Just take Bruce with you, or maybe one per ship. You take Bruce, and maybe you take AJ, whoever. But you don't take all of them. You don't take all of them. That's dumb as fuck.
Michael Bay had the actors write their list of demands. So they actually wrote their list of demands.
Oh, if they were going up, that's
Yeah,
pretty cool. Yeah.
yeah. Bruce Willis has said that he did not care for Michael Bay's directing style, snap, and he refuses to work with him again.
Well, I get it. It's not for everyone, including myself for the most part.
Because of the patriotic nature of the script and the success of using Top Gun as recruitment material, the producers persuaded NASA to allow director Michael Bay and company to shoot in the normally restricted space agency. This included the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, a 65 million gallon, 40-foot deep pool used to train astronauts for weightlessness, and the use of two $10 million spacesuits. The crew was also allowed to shoot an historic launch pad that went out of service after the Apollo 1 disaster. And parts of the movie were filmed at Edwards Air Force Base in California.
That's what Michael Bay does. He does get authenticity. Like he often gets the military on board. His films just do. If you remove his busy camera and busy editing, his films do usually look good. And in this film, one of the reasons it's aged so well is because it's on location and it's in these places.
Bruce Willis came to the film after he decided a comedy he was filming called The Broadway Brawler could not be salvaged and sought a way to exit the project. Disney's then head Joe Roth worked out a deal where Willis would star in Armageddon in 2 future films for the studio, and in exchange, Disney would absorb the failed project's costs and as an advance against his initial salary. The 2 films,
this worked out well for Disney.
Under this deal were The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable.
I mean, Jesus Christ, they've done pretty well out of that one. Oh, what a film Unbreakable is. Speaking of M. Night Shyamalan, fucking love Unbreakable.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. When asked why he did this film, Steve Buscemi replied, I just wanted a bigger house.
It's fair enough.
Yep. Rockhound's line about sitting on £1 million of fuel in a rocket built by the lowest bidder is a variation of an actual radio transmission by Mercury astronaut Alan Shepard just prior to liftoff.
Awesome.
That's funny though. And when you think about it, I'm sitting on something that was designed by the lowest bidder.
Yeah, well, it's every so often. Have you ever just been on a plane that's about to take off and you like really stop and think about what you're doing? You're like, I'm just sitting inside a rocket, just flying up into the air, defying gravity. I'm just like, this is insane. I don't understand how any of this really works. I'm not a fucking plane scientist. Jesus Christ.
Ben Affleck's teeth were replaced. Michael Bay noticed early in production that Affleck's teeth seemed like baby teeth in the footage they had shot. He notes that Bruckheimer had previously replaced the teeth of a very famous star in a plane movie. Affleck spent 8 hours a day in a dentist chair for a week to get the teeth you see in the film. These teeth also cost roughly 20 grand.
I did say to my wife when we were watching this film, I was like, Ben Affleck's teeth look the part, man. I was like, he's got good teeth. And I was like, did he always have good teeth? Apparently not. So, yeah, you have to go back and watch, I don't know, fucking Mallrats to see what his tiny teeth look like. But yeah, I
It's
mean, you think
tiny
about
too.
the transformative effect on Tom Cruise. If you go back and watch, is it The Outsiders? He's in the Francis Ford
Yeah,
Coppola film.
1983. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, his teeth are a fucking disgrace in that film. But yeah, he sorted those out.
The gun William Fichtner's character pulls out was not originally in the film. Michael Bay mentions that they would not have gotten the Air Force's approval if they knew someone playing an Air Force colonel would regularly brandish a weapon like that. The gun was later added during filming to give the scene more tension. Bay
Mm.
remembers being nervous as they showed the film to the Air Force, who could have had the entire scene cut out if they deemed it objectionable. Given the manner with which Fichtner pulls the gun and the overall situation, the Air Force ended up approving the scene after the fact.
Well, plus at that point, he even says, Will Patton says, you brought a gun to space. It's like, dude, there is 2 miniguns attached to those goddamn buggies. Like, this gun is the smallest gun around for sure.
Steve Buscemi referred to the irony in Con Air about a bunch of idiots singing a song made popular by a band that died in a plane crash. He was referring in that instance to Sweet Home Alabama by Lynyrd Skynyrd. He is seen in Armageddon singing Leaving on a Jet Plane, sung by John Denver, who also died in a plane crash a year prior to the movie.
Well, as long as they're aware of their own irony, then I think that makes it fine.
Bruce Willis was given a second trailer that housed a full working gym at an estimated cost of $175,000. It was reportedly never used.
Awesome. Awesome. This is back in the 90s.
Bruce
There
Willis
was
is not the
still...
like I imagine like you giving that kind of thing to Schwarzenegger or Stallone or
Mhm.
The Rock now. The Rock takes his gym everywhere, doesn't he? But Bruce Willis didn't strike me as the guy that did the gym between takes.
I think it was just a big dick move. I think he was just asking for everything. It was just the 90s. And part of it was just, you were competing against the other actors, like, oh, he's got a gym, I want a gym. But yeah, Bruce Willis didn't look like he's in perfectly okay shape, but he's kind of in like dad shape. He's not in fucking Schwarzenegger Stallone shape by any stretch.
Yeah.
And he never was. That was the whole point.
There's fucking loads, so I'm just gonna do one more, right?
Cool.
Liv Tyler shot this film concurrently with Plunkett and McLean, so would frequently fly from Los Angeles to her locations in the Czech Republic for stretches of time.
I think that might be the first
That's
person
why the end.
anybody's brought a Plunkett McCain in the last decade, in fairness.
So that's probably why the end of like her was basically just her just looking for.
Yeah, they just did that all in
Yeah.
one day, and then just do the scene with Bruce, and you'll be fine.
Oh,
Hope the future. Oh,
sorry. Liv Tyler, Ben Affleck, and William Fichtner are all distantly related to each other. They are all descended from the same English Baldwin family.
Oh, there we go. I thought you were going to say, oh, Genghis Khan. Everybody's supposedly related to Genghis Khan because he was such a notorious coxman.
All
But
the Baldwins, apparently.
really?
Or well, I don't know, English Baldwin family. I'm just going to go Baldwin, the Baldwins.
Hope to the future. So this is where you ask the question: remake, sequel, Let It Die, or Leave Well Alone. It's pretty easy. It's Leave Alone. It's totally a movie of its time for all its faults. This needs Michael Bay to commit to the madness and scale. And you're not getting this kind of cast in 2025. It's not going to happen. Or you do Armageddon 2 as a courtroom drama all about the president having to answer for his decision making. So he goes into court, there's just boards showing proof that if he had detonated as per his order, an order contrary to the science provided and proved by NASA, that everyone on Earth would have been dead. I think the president is fucking in for it after this movie ends because everybody wants to know what happened. And it was like, guys, the president was going to blow the nuke on the surface. And the question would be like, would that have worked? And everyone would be like, no, unequivocally, no chance. And it's just like, wait, he gave that up. Yeah, there was like a whole coup. There was dudes in the fucking lift. They came out. We miraculously stopped it. Otherwise, if the president had his way, Earth dead, Earth gone. I don't know why I'm talking like a moron all of a sudden. You get the premise. So that's what I'd go for if I had to make a sequel. Armageddon 2, the courtroom drama version.
Home to the Future, Let It Die. Let it die. Just not even Leave Alone. This is not like just let it die. If this disappeared in the zeitgeist, I'd be all right with it.
That might actually be correct. So I said Leave Well Alone. That kind of suggests that I have a reverence for this film. Let It Die is probably fair enough. I as I've mentioned for the past hour or so, I've enjoyed it enough. But this is a movie that I'm not going to tell anybody you have to go back and rewatch this. It's kind of fun, total movie of time. But yeah, you're probably right. Just let it die. Make a change. So, I mean, if we could make one change to make this movie better, I think you could just lose 20 minutes or so. You could probably lose an hour if you cut out the slow-mos and overly dramatic shots of people just looking at shit like a 90s Michael Jackson music video. But this film could be like, I know, an hour and 50 or something like that, and it would be a much better film. It just 2 hours and 20, it kind of drags a little bit.
The fucking subtitle 2 months later. At least then I know how long it took AJ to get that fucking oil field.
This is one of these weird hills where Rob has decided to die upon it, and die upon it he shall. By God.
No, I need a timeline because these fuckers, right?
I say they do that. Say they do exactly what you said. Does this film really? Is it really any better if they do that?
Fuck no.
Okay, that's we're in agreement. That's fine.
No matter what change you make, you can take your slow-mos and shit out and make it. It's still not going to make this. This film will still be as fucking dumb, and I've already said it, as dumb as a bag of hammers.
Oh, of course, it is dumb as a bag of hammers. But if this was like a brisk 1 hour 45, I just feel like you'd have less time to think about how ridiculous it is. If they
it
kind
becomes
of got
fucking Moonfall, then doesn't it?
Moonfall's a bad film. I tried to watch Moonfall. I say a bad film. The first 40 minutes I managed to get through, I was like, this is pretty rough.
Dude, I haven't even watched it. I saw the trailer and I thought, yep, not for me.
Well, yeah, if you don't like Armageddon, you're probably not going to, and you don't like Independence Day, you're not going to watch Moonfall. That's fair enough. In terms of video games, I don't think there was an Armageddon video game. If there was, I missed it. If I was going to make one today, given just how ridiculous this film is, I would go with Goat Simulator. Was made by Coffee Stain Studios, crossed with Surgeon Simulator, which was created by Bossa Studios. So the idea of both those games, one you play as a goat, one you play as a surgeon, but fundamentally they're just hard to control. So basically I'd have this movie, only you're playing as Bear, his hands are just too big for all the instruments, and he has to do everything with a giant wrench. I just think that kind of is the closest, in terms of recreating the experience of Armageddon. Is just you just being a person in space who has no business being there, who's too big to be there, and is wondering why he brought his giant wrench with him, and he's just smashing everything up as the world goes to shit. So that's what I'd go with.
You win this one, right? Because I couldn't come up. The only thing I could come up with was turn it into some sort of like Dead Space thing with Peter Stormare. Just he's stuck on a space station. They've left him alone. He's stuck on a space station. Like
I think you're on something. I think you just make it a prequel, and it's just a low key kind of like life simulator where you're just Lev, whatever the fuck his name is. I should get his second name. Lev. No, I forgot to write it down. Lev something Russian, and he's just existing on his own, slowly going mad on the space
You're not
station.
even wrong. Lev something Russian. Lev Andropov.
Antropov, of course, because he's just cliche as fuck. What else sounds Russian as fuck? We'll just go with this. So yeah, those are your games options this week. Best and worst of IMDb. Now this is going to be a fucking interesting one. 522 reviews.
Oh, I was going to give you a hint and say it'd get over 1,000. 1,407 reviews.
Yeah, damn, man. See, people have an attachment to this film one way or another. I think there's going to be a lot of 10-star reviews. 200?
Ooh, 228.
Oh, dude, I almost said 222. Legitimately, I just say 200. That's a fair amount,
Yeah. Right, so written in May 2019, titled Underrated Even in the Year 2019. Sometimes IMDb group rating is wrong, and that is okay. I have learned my life that being wrong teaches me lessons in life. However, in this film, my girl whispered to me that it was perfect, and I have to admit I agree. I've also spoken to many, many friends and family members about this film, and they call it a 10. So there you have it.
You need new friends and family, dude.
Sorry the critics couldn't do their job well enough for us on this title. Even they make mistakes. From time to time, it's okay to be wrong. Be sure to enjoy this with a glass of wine or tea if that is your choice, because it is so intense I nearly received a heart attack twice. What the fuck? This guy literally wrote this just to tell people that he has many, many friends.
And the whole it's okay for people to get it wrong. Sometimes people don't get it's definitely a 10. Not like in his opinion. It's just like no. This is clearly a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. Like, I mean, dude, and I've spoken out in defense of this movie for most of this podcast. Fucking, you can't give this film a 10 out of 10, dude. Jesus Christ.
In quotes, this guy definitely doesn't live in his mum's basement with my girl whispered in my ear, and I have many friends.
All bullshit. I'm meeting up with a lot of my friends some of my many friends in York later on this year. We've got this whole plan because we're going to watch this fucking goat show. Anyway, it doesn't matter. If I was just chilling out with them and we're all in a bar,
did you just say you're going to watch a goat?
No, go like what the fuck's a show called? I'm not even that fussed on it. Uncanny. It's like a ghost show.
Oh, sorry. I could have sworn you said you're gonna like you're all going to York to watch a goat.
Like a
And I
weird
thought I'm
sex
glad
show.
I'm not
No,
one
dude,
of those friends.
I'm gonna see like a girl fuck a goat, and it's gonna be weird as shit. No, it's a ghost show. But anyway, if I was sitting around and we're at the bar, and then all of a sudden all my friends just one by one go, "Oh no, like fucking Armageddon is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece," I think I would just fucking leave. Even if I was fucking three sheets to the wind, I'd just get in my car drunk, take my chances, and drive the fuck back home.
I mean, you'd go to watch the goat show first, though, yeah.
Of course, you'd have to watch the goat show, of course, yeah. So 1 star reviews. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like not quite as many. 122.
250.
See, I should have kept with my initial thing where I said it's going to be around the same. It doesn't matter. 250. So there's more 1 star reviews than 10 star reviews.
Yeah.
Nice.
This was actually fucking hell, quite close. August '99. This was written, titled "One Good Thing."
Okay, here we go.
There is a glimmer of hope in the event of a real-life Armageddon of an asteroid striking the Earth. Certainly, in all life will end on this planet, but it will also take this movie with it. This ranks, pun intended, as one of the worst movies I have ever seen. 1950s monster movies notwithstanding. The acting is so bad.
Pun intended.
Yeah, I don't know what the pun was.
What's the pun? Yeah, I didn't get the pun. Yeah.
This ranks in brackets, pun intended.
Fair enough.
I don't know.
I think this is like a Princess Bride situation. I don't think this word you're saying means what you think it means.
The acting is so bad in this movie. Who the hell told Liv Tyler she could act?
Oh, going after
I was waiting for that, yeah. And Bruce Willis should be completely embarrassed by this flick. Movies such as these are the reason I save my $7 at the theatre and wait till it comes on HBO. Of course, a lot of people will. I mean, 99, dude.
Yeah, I know. It just hurts my heart. I'm going to save my $7. Fuck it, that's like £4.99. Jesus.
Of course, a lot of people will say that you can't get the full effect of the movie without seeing it on the big screen. While that may be true, it's pretty sad that you have to judge a movie simply by special effects and only when they're seen on the big screen. One final note. When I watch a movie about the end of the earth, I really would like to actually see the end of the earth, and not some hokey story about one person saving the day at the last minute. Does every movie have to have a happy ending? In the case of Armageddon, the happy ending was the ending itself. I mean, deep cut.
If you want to watch something really depressing, watch Melancholia. That is the end of the world, isn't it? But no, I thought you was going to throw it. Listen, I talked to my many friends, and we all agreed it's a 1 star movie. I'm going to start using that in sentences all the time. Every time I give an opinion, listen, I talked to my many friends about this, and there was this one time my girlfriend whispered in my ear this exact fact. So yeah, that was absolute gold.
I want to see if we missed the pun. There is a glimmer of hope in the event of a real-life Armageddon of an asteroid striking the Earth. Certainly, all life will end on this planet, but it will also take this movie with it. This ranks, in brackets, pun intended, as one of the worst movies I have ever seen. Yeah, no. I do not think that word means what you think it means.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's just completely missed about. All right, so that was insane. Ratings and recommendations. So this is going to be interesting. For me, well, it probably won't be that interesting. Guess where I'm going. It's 3 stars from me. And oddly, yes. I mean, this is a tricky one because obviously we've got the depth. Would I go out of my way to tell people that they've got to go and watch Armageddon? No, I wouldn't. But if it was like one of those ones that came up in conversation and I used to like Armageddon, I'm like, yeah, it's still perfectly decent. If you liked it then, like I said earlier, it hasn't changed. Does it hold up? Yeah, it kind of does, but only if you liked it in 1998. So it's a 3 and a maybe, but. I know you want to be more definitive with this. If we're going by the initial definition of would I go out of my way to tell people to watch Armageddon, then no. So I'm going to say 3 and no.
The 2.5 and a no. I mean, I don't really like disaster films.
That was closer than I thought, though.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't. Well, I've gone proper middle, proper middle down the road, 2.5. But I wouldn't recommend it. It's just not one. Like, I don't like disaster movies, like I said. So why would I subject disaster movies to other people? So no, this is really interesting because for the second part of our disaster end of the world season of podcast, it's Rob's choice who fucking hates end of the world disaster movies. So I'm really interested to know what you're going to pick. Basically, this is why I made you caveat this, right? Not just disaster end of the world, post apocalyptic.
Yeah. Well, I think end of the world can mean different things. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
is it
But
going to be
this
the end
is
of the world?
but this is
Well,
what I
that's what
wanted.
that guy said. There are movies where I know it's not the end of the world. The end of the world as we know it has already happened, and now we're dealing with the aftermath kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's a
So
hint, I guess.
that's why I've kind of gone. I
Mhm.
wanted that as well because
Okay.
I can pull out a couple of and like we clarified disaster movie. Like, so I do have a disaster movie coming up,
Mhm.
but I've gone really, really obscure with the kind of end of the world
Oh, this is going to be
post.
a bit loosey goosey straight away. Loosey
Oh,
goosey on the second
oh.
choice.
I mean, I feel I have to apologize for this now.
Okay,
The
here we go.
year the year is 1986,
See, I
and
feel like we've talked about this.
I'm
I,
so
I,
looking forward to watching this film.
this has to be Solar Babies, right? This has to be Solar Babies.
It's Solar Babies.
Listen, you don't have to apologize. I'm totally, ever since, because I'd never heard this film. This goes back ages in our podcasting. You made me watch that clip when they're like all holding hands on
And they jump
rollerblades.
over the bridge.
Yeah. And I'm just like, again, another jump. We talked about the buggy in this film. We've talked about the bus jump in Speed. This, while not as famous, is right fucking up there. I was just like, I've got to watch this film, but I've been putting it off, and it's on Amazon Prime if you guys fancy watching it. So if you've got an Amazon Prime subscription, it's free to watch with that. I have wanted to see this for ages, but I'm like, no, dude, this is at some point, Rob is going to pick this for the podcast. And yeah, I am totally on board. As to whether it's going to be any good, I have no fucking idea, but I am looking forward to seeing it.
I kind of loved, right, this weird obsession they had with roller skates
It's just a part of
and
the late 80s,
rollerblades.
early 90s.
Yeah, because you had these like end of the, and I've watched quite a few of them. So you had like Solar Babies or Solar Warriors, whatever you want
I
to
know
call it.
exactly what you're going to mention next.
Prayer of the Roller Boys,
Of course, you've got to mention Prayer of the Roller Boys.
which it,
I
which
totally watched that when I was younger.
it's rated higher than Solar Babies is.
Ooh, that's another film I watched a lot in a short period of time. There was like a
Yeah.
6 month period when we went to the video store and rented Prayer of the Roller Boys a lot. I have no concept of how that's held up. I'm not expecting it to be a masterpiece, but I also don't know if it's bad or decent or what.
You also then had Rollerblade 7, where I just remember some guy in glasses and blonde hair.
Rollerblade, I assume that's not the seventh movie in the franchise.
No. That's 7 warriors
Okay,
going up
obviously, yeah.
against a guy that looks like the bad guy from Mortal Kombat.
Mhm.
Uh, and apparently it did so well that 2 years later you had Legend of the Rollerblade 7.
Jesus, I've not even heard of this. So we need to save some of this for next week. You need to fill
Yeah.
me on all these movies, or maybe I'll find out myself through the research. But we'll start with Solar Babies as a start, as this. And it, just be clear, he hasn't just picked a rollerblading movie. This is a post-apocalyptic rollerblading movie, so it does fit the bill.
Yeah.
But
most
all
of
I've seen is
most of those rollerblading movies from them were like after the world ended. Apparently, that was how you
Well, put
traveled.
this way, right? I almost folded on this because I know I've just said that I was like, I'm gonna wait for this film. And one day I was just sitting there and I was just like looking for something to watch. And I was like, fuck, I'm just going to put on Solar Babies because it's on Amazon Prime. And I watched the opening sequence of them rollerblading in this weird, like fucking competent, whatever is going on. It's just like, no. I got to save this. I got to save this. I was literally just like, oh no, I already have loads of things to talk about. And I've watched about 30 seconds of this film. So no, I am so on board with this. As I said, whether it be good, bad, somewhere in between, I think it's going to be nothing if not interesting. And if this is news to you, Solar Babies, like I said, look it up, check it out on Amazon Prime. I suspect it's going to be worthy of your time if you're listening to this podcast.
And thank me later.
Yeah, apparently so. We'll see how it goes. So this has been, what a weird shift from Armageddon to Solar Babies next week, but I think it'll be an interesting one. Any other business before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I've my wife's not home, so I can actually do this week. She's not begging me for food. So I've got a couple that I've been saving up. So I just want to mention some mentions that we've had off some of the listeners. So first one, Andrew Gibbons. He said, saw a couple of films over the weekend that made me have a look at how much Rutger Hauer stuff you guys have covered. The films were Nighthawks from 81 with Stallone and Hauer, and also Split Second from the early 90s, which is set in a flooded London of the future. Split Second in particular made me think it was right up your street because it's fucking shit. I remember paying good money to go and see it at the cinema, and it also features Kim Cattrall too. Loving the revisited films you've done over the last couple of weeks. Keep up the great work. Well, I love this, right? He said it's right up your street because it's fucking shit. So he's picking one of us. He is picking one of us from there, though, isn't he? Let's be fair.
I think maybe you've got more of a proclivity towards dodgy B movies than maybe I do, but I have had an interest in potentially watching Split Second. And was it Black Hawk? Was that the other one? I know the one he means with Stallone there. That's early 80s, right?
Nighthawks. That was
Nighthawk.
where,
Sorry.
Rutger Hauer played like a terrorist.
Is that the one where Stallone's got a beard?
Yes, and he dresses
Yeah,
up as a
yeah.
woman at some point, like to
See,
go
now you're
undercover,
saying this,
something
and
like
I'm
that.
like, I don't know, maybe I want to watch these. But yeah, those would be interesting ones. But I mean, we're talking about doing down Periscope. So if we're going to do down Periscope at some point, I'm not going to write off kind of Split Second or any of these crazy ass fucking films.
Well, speaking of that, the next message is of Steve Dunn, right? And I just have to say, Steve, we haven't mentioned it. You did give us Robot Jocks, but you've also provided another YouTube film for me, Death Machine. Remember Death Machine? I went on about
Oh
it
yeah,
before.
yeah.
Yeah. Steve found the director's cut on YouTube, so at some point that's getting picked.
Brilliant.
But he's actually come back because I don't know if you remember a couple of weeks ago, he told us about a colleague he had at work who married his stepsister, and we had a
Oh
question.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we
Yeah,
had a pretty serious conversation about that.
but then we also had a question because it was just a throwaway line he said around the fact that this guy's brother may have married the other sister. So
Oh
we asked
yeah,
Steve
yeah.
to get
So
back
it
to us.
just got increasingly weird.
So Steve came back with, "Hi gents, I was a day late catching up with the latest episode. Just for clarification, Ray's brother married the other stepsister. So both brothers had as a stepmom who was also their mother-in-law. Imagine attending those weddings, bride's side or groom's, both."
I mean, it's a lot, isn't it? Because like we said before, theoretically it's not illegal and it shouldn't be because they're not related, but it's fucking weird. And the fact that you're both at it, I mean, get out of the house, guys. Go to a club, get online, meet someone else. Don't all go fucking your stepsisters. It's just weird. And the fact that they both did it, all I can think is that one of them did it and the other was just like, well, if he did it, I'm getting a piece of action as well.
Yeah.
Absolute disgrace. If you talk to your friends, if they're still your friends, it is unforgivable. And the fact that they both did it makes it worthy. I would dare say, like, they should be turning this into a Netflix documentary.
The fucking Netflix, it's got to be one of those Hallmark or Lifetime movie of the week things, you know? Where
I
I
don't know.
felt it.
I just feel like there's 8 episodes in this where you're just like, To Catch a Killer or what? Not To Catch a Killer. That was on for years. There was one. It was like the real breakout murder documentary on Netflix. And I remember, I can't remember the name of it now off the top of my head, but the whole thing was like they built it up in the first episode, and then the reveal at the end of the first episode was like that wasn't even the thing. That was like a tiny part of it. And it's like they could do the same with this. It's like they call it "I Married My Stepsister," and you go the whole first episode, and then you realize the actual story is they both married their stepsister. Like, no fucking way, dude.
You know what would make this even better? If they were both twins. Two
Oh, of
sets of
course.
twins.
In the movie version of this, they would both be twins.
Yeah, they're all
Absolutely.
twins.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And one final message then
But thanks, Steve. Just keep sending the filth, buddy.
from another message I'll start again. Another message from another listener, Craig Fox. He said, "What about my science project? I just rewatched it yesterday and it was awesome. Great cast. Fisher Stevens in particular is the ultimate sidekick. Dennis Hopper doing some amalgamation of all of his famous characters. Some of the other great things are great because they are less than perfect. Score is awesome and up there with the great Star Wars Indiana Jones. There's a badass hero car. I think it's a Hemi Cuda, like Joe Dirt's cute damsel in distress that goes from geeky to hot. There's even a couple unlicensed stormtrooper appearances. Fun movie filled with 35-year-olds playing high school kids. I think you'll love it." I mean, to be fair, we do like 45-year-old, 60-year-old playing a teenager, so that's well up our street. And what I will say is, I love my science project. I do have it on DVD. I have tried to show friends who have not been as receptive. So at some point, I think we might have. Let's just Steve. I just wanted to
right.
see.
We just talked about this, like the fact that they end up making these films together. Like we mentioned with the disaster films, with this and Deep Impact and Volcano and Dante's Peak. This is all the way through cinema history. Like even recently, we've had shit where people forget that there were like 2 Pinocchio movies. Like right around the same time, both in flops and nobody cared. They did the same with Jungle Book. There was like the live action remake, and then there was another one by what's his name? Gollum. He directed one.
Yeah.
And they all come out at the same time. This came out the same year as Weird Science.
Yeah.
Like, and there was literally a DVD double pack when I looked into this for Weird Science and this. Obviously, I grew up with Weird Science. I remember that movie fondly. Somehow, this movie completely passed me by. Looking at the poster, which is fucking dope, by the way, I'm like, I kind of want to see this. And when you started saying Fisher Stevens and Dennis Hopper, I'm like, I don't know, man. This sounds fucking awesome.
Is Fisher Stevens in the poster? Is he wearing his fingerless gloves?
No, he's not. I can see a picture of him, but I can't see his hand, sadly. But I'll save that for the movie. So yeah, it sounds like that movie is in the post because I've not seen it, and the more I read and see about it, the more I actually want to see it. I'm not going to be put off by the 11% on Rotten Tomatoes.
We can't access this at the moment, so I might have to dig my DVD out and get it sent to you.
Oh, of course you've got this on DVD. What a fucking
Of course, dude. Honestly, it's fantastic. There's a part of it where the project goes nuts and they just end up walking through the school and the school turns into like the jungle of Vietnam. That's all I'm going to tell you. Yeah.
Well, like, you don't have to convince me anymore. If we can find a way to watch this, we'll do it at some point in the podcast for sure.
Yeah. So Craig,
I would put this miles ahead of Down Periscope. Put it this way, I feel like this is much more up our. In our wheelhouse.
It's being done, and Steve would definitely do in Death Machine. So you guys are definitely on my side. And sorry, I will go, Andrew. We're going to do Split Second. I mean, these guys are for me.
Yeah. Oh no, these are all very much Rob choices. There's no two ways about it. But out of those, the one that really has caught my attention is undoubtedly that one. Yeah, 100%. That's the one I'd really like to do. All right, well, no, thanks for that. And thank you for getting in touch as usual. If you do send us any messages when we remember, we will read them out. Because as you said, sometimes we are, because of timing, we have to go somewhere straight after the podcast, or we have to feed our wives or whatever. So we tend to cut these pretty short. But yeah, we will get round to these things eventually. But yeah, this has been, I was at one point I was like, what film will we even, we've mentioned so many films. I've got the movie we're fucking talking about in this podcast. This has been Armageddon. Do join us next week for fucking Solar Babies. And by the way, my wife walked in when I put on Solar Babies, and all she saw was the title card. And unsurprisingly, my wife had never heard of Solar Babies. She came in.
Do you think you were watching porn?
She didn't know. She didn't know. She just came in. She saw the title. She, what the fuck is Solar Babies? And I was like, I'm not actually sure yet. I'm going to find out. So this is going to be an interesting conversation.
Please watch it with your wife.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
I'll get her opinion as well. I'm Liam. He's Rob. And you have been listening to the Hey Guys podcast. Cheers, guys. See you next week.
And if you didn't get anything from this, go and listen to Armageddon by Alkaline Trio, please. Cheers, guys. See you next week.
Oh, and before I forget, where can folk reach us if they were so inclined to?
Well, you can actually reach us on Hey You Guys 80s at Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. But if you want to send us a mail, do heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Send us in your recommendations. Send us in your thoughts about any of the episodes. Just literally talk to us. We'll have a one-sided talk with you on the podcast.
Yeah. We're nice folk. Get in touch. But no, cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.